Clemson absolutely put on an offensive clinic against Appalachian State on Saturday night. They won 66-20. They set records for scoring points in a quarter and I believe in a half. Also, Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik joins only Lamar Jackson as an ACC player with 5 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns in one half. A lot of good things happen. But I've got to ask the question, because that's what I do. Where was this offense against Georgia? It's a good question. I'm going to dive into that in just a second. Welcome to the I can't speak, y'all. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. I'm Brian. I'm talking Clemson football. I'm talking college football. If you like what I do, hope you will subscribe. You guys are getting me. I mean, I'm right there at 5,000 subscribers, and it's all thanks to all of you. So appreciate you being here. Now, I'm going to dive right in. Here we go. I am going to give you the positive, and I'm going to give you the pessimistic. I would say negative, but I'll give you the pessimistic view. And hopefully somewhere within this video, I will satisfy your emotional palate. I came up with that saying. I thought it was really, really good. I mean, it's really cheesy, but let's just roll with it. So if you're more of a positive person, you're going to be happy to a point. And if you're a pessimist, you're going to be happy to a point. But I want to tell you the goal of this video. Just stick with me. I'll stop rambling. I want to give you the goal here. The goal is to ask some questions. I promise I have not been drinking alcohol. It's just like, I don't know what it is. I just can't speak. Is to ask some questions. And if we can answer these questions, honestly, I think that we'll be able to determine whether Clemson will return to the mountain, if Clemson will return to dominance, or whether we will just become a team who's thrilled with 8-4, just go to the games because we love Clemson. You know, I grew up in that community. If that's the case, 2 terribly different scenarios. But I think we're at that crossroads. So let's talk about the good things. Set your sundial. At about the 13-minute and 55-second mark of the first quarter, I mean, we're a minute and 5 seconds into the game, Clemson calls a play. Cade Klubnik, with all of last week's criticism of him, which to me, he didn't really do anything bad against Georgia. I mean, you can only operate the plays that's called into you. And so I'll just leave that where it may lie. He snaps the ball. And instead of throwing the ball out into the flats, one of the laziest play calls you can have now, or throwing a bubble screen, my head's starting to hurt me. Young Cade stepped back, looked down the field, and threw an absolute dime to true freshman Bryant Wesco. Bryant Wesco, who really didn't get involved in the Georgia game. You know, we'd heard about him and TJ Moore like crazy. They didn't get involved in the Georgia game until late, until when it was over. Now, there was other players involved in the Georgia game who, no offense to them personally, but as far as their playability goes, I don't think they should have been out there. But at the 13-minute, 55-second mark, he threw a dart. And it made us wet our drawers because we couldn't believe what we were seeing. We hadn't seen a pass like that since the Trevor Lawrence years. We haven't. We haven't seen a pass that looked that good. Hitting a wide receiver in stride. He did it again a little later on. Then we started seeing plays that we had never seen before. I say never seen before. We hadn't seen in a long time. Years. Being called on the offensive side of the football. Before you know it, Clemson has scored, 35 points in the first quarter? They scored 56 points in the first half. They were dialing up plays we haven't seen in a very long time, or at least called back to back. I've jokingly said implied that if we could get our hands on Clemson's playbook, that was only about 5 pages back in front, and it was like 3 plays just with different looks. I mean, that's just how Manila it's looked. But this past Saturday night, Clemson put on a clinic, and it gave you and I hope. It made us feel really, really good. It's like, yes, we can score. And yes, I know it's Appalachian State, and I know the talent level with Georgia is way different, but Appalachian State is not a joke, folks. Appalachian State, we know their body count. They've taken down a bunch of teams. They live in college football infamy for being the true David, going in and killing Goliath on a few different occasions. And we didn't want that after what had happened, but Clemson made Appalachian State look the worst I've ever seen them look. It made us feel good. Over 700 yards of offense. Clemson wasn't committing boneheaded penalties, boneheaded plays. It didn't make sense. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. It made you forget that just 1 week earlier, Clemson couldn't even get 200 yards. They couldn't score but only 3 points in the first half. Now here's where we're transitioning over to some of the pessimists. Just hang with me. Georgia is Georgia. And certain plays can only be called if you have the personnel or the ability to execute them against who you're playing against. So if anybody wants to rebut me, you're right. It is, in fact, as I was preparing for this video, I could rebut myself. You can't call the same game against Georgia that you may be able to call against Appalachian State. But it's a different scenario to play either scared or play not to lose, because a lot of teams, when they play not to lose, they end up losing. In Clemson's case, they got their tail handed to them. Yes, I know that in the first half, it was 6-0. At the end of the first quarter, it was 0-0. It was a good old-fashioned defensive battle. But I'll warn you that Georgia's offense was going to wear out Clemson's defense. That Clemson's lack of offensive productivity was actually going to hurt our defense. And that's exactly what happened. I hated it. Hated it for the defense. We saw no creativity. Not even a try. I mean, okay, maybe 1, maybe 2 plays against Georgia. And then what did I hear from people I respect, friends of mine, people that's on my comment board? I heard people say, well, Georgia is Georgia, and we just have to accept it. So that bothered me, because I'm sitting here going, hold on, when did we as Clemson, where did we transition into being okay with getting our heads beat in? I mean, the scoreboard says 34-3. I know they're the front runner for the national championship, but guys, what happened? Then you look at the offense that was called against Georgia. Once again, remember, I admitted that you can't call everything that you called against Appalachian State against Georgia, because Georgia would shut it down. But the plays that we were calling against Georgia, it was very defendable. If I was the DC, I'd be sitting there going, are they even trying against us? Or have we intimidated them that much? That's all you have to do is show up in Georgia jerseys and have the hype behind you, which they've earned. And Clemson won't even try. I've also had people who I respect and have been friends with, even people I know, people on comment boards that I don't know, people I run into at church, people on other forums that I've read, just trying to figure out the feel of the Georgia loss and how the Clemson community is responding to it. A lot of people are saying, well, we just didn't want to show our playbook to Georgia. And I respectfully ask this. So we would wait 1 week, open up the playbook against a team we didn't have to open up the playbook to score, and then in turn show the other 10 teams we would play after Appalachian State in the regular season. We would give them film on those plays. And if we make it to the ACC championship, they'll have the film on it as well. And if for some reason Clemson should win out and go to the 12-team playoff, they have film from that Appalachian State game as well. It's a big deal. Why is it a big deal? Because Clemson did put up crazy numbers. Those teams will go back to that game and say, how did they put up over 700 yards of offense? How did they score 56 points in the first half? How did Cade Klubnik join only Lamar Jackson in ACC history of 5 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns in a first half? They're going to go to that film. Why wouldn't Clemson at least try against Georgia? That's a great question. Some people are telling me that Dabo was still dabbling in the Georgia game. He was still dabbling with the offense. And then after it was such a debacle, he took his hands off. He told Garrett Riley to run his offense. I've heard people laughing about it. If you pay attention to any forums or you talk to other Clemson fans, you know the joke about, oh no, Dabo's got his Waffle House menu out. That's what you'll hear all the time. It's in my comment board. He didn't have his Waffle House menu out the other night, supposedly, against Appalachian State. So, folks, my question is, which is it? Because if we can answer this question and we can come back to Dabo was still dabbling with the offense. He was never X's and O's guys by his own X's and O guy by his own admission. He said that. I didn't come up with that. Coach Sweeney did it. His goal and his magic was actually hiring people who knew what they were doing to do what they do. So the question is that what happened in the Georgia game? Why am I fixated on the Georgia game? Why can't I just be happy? Now, I can hear Coach Sweeney right now, if he heard my comments and my questions and so on, his rebuttal, I can hear it as though he said it. If someone had the gall to ask him at a press conference, not the new call-in show, which is just text in, they would filter that out. If they said, hey, this guy in his bonus room, he talks about Clemson football, he asked this question, why? I mean, why didn't y'all try against Georgia? I can hear it from Coach Sweeney right now. Well, some people just can't be happy. Some people are just so negative that no matter if something good happens, they just can't accept it and they can't move on. And you know what I've had to learn? You just gotta move on and not pay attention to those people. And that's a fact, in fact. I agree with him in a lot of ways, but here's the unfortunate part. This is a valid question, or these questions are something that we should stop and think about. Who was calling the plays against Georgia? Are we now, here's another one for you, are we now intimidated by elite football teams? Because if the question is yes to that question, that means we're not elite anymore, which I don't believe we are. I'm not taking a shot at the players. I'm taking a shot at where the offensive coaching has led us up to this point, no matter who was doing it. We need to ask this question. If what we saw the other night against Appalachian State was the result of Clemson being humiliated in front of all of the country, and now Dabo says, look, Garrett, I don't care what you call as long as you get me points. I don't care what you do. I'm not going to influence it. I don't want you to play it safe and go, well, Max Duggan could run some successful plays, but you know what? Cade Klubnik can't. I don't believe that. Bull crap. Bull flipping crap. I don't believe that. That's a load of crap. Take your gloves off, Garrett, and go in there. Let's give our offense a chance. Let's give these players a chance to do something special. Instead of playing safe football, if we're going to lose, let's go down swinging. If that happened, and this is the new offense that's coming out, folks, we'll win out this season. For all of you who say that I'm too pessimistic, did you hear the words coming out of my mouth? Tell me what movie that's from. That's one of my favorite lines. I just said that Clemson would win out. The ACC is not good. It's bad. Then with this offense that they came out with, they would go to the ACC championship. NC State's terrible. Florida State's bad. Virginia Tech's blah. And who knows if Miami will make it to the actual ACC championship this year while everybody's crowning them already. I mean, they have a whole season to play ahead of them. Clemson could very well make it to the ACC championship and very well win it if this is the new offense. That's one. Number two, if Clemson goes back in their shell, what gives? You mean you only open up the playbook against a team that you don't have to open up the playbook? You could just line up. In fact, before that game, I actually gave a prediction. I said, Clemson doesn't need to put this game on Cade's shoulders. Just go in, avoid being upset, line up, hand it off to Maffa, and let him do what he does. I mean, he peeled off that 83-yard run. That was a tough run. That gap was closing up. Most people make that tackle, but Phil Maffa is, well, Phil Maffa. That's why he's one of my favorites. And he showed everybody that though he's not the fastest man on the planet, he's still pretty doggone fast, especially when you consider he's what, 6'1", 220, 225? My question is this the new offense? If this is the new offense and we're going to be consistently creative and we're going to be consistently explosive and put the right people on the field, Wesco and Moore both got touchdowns. Well, Brian, they were trying to break them in. Some of you, listen to me. We can have different opinions. This is just football. We're just hanging out. And sometimes I seem like I'm really getting heated, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of times I turn off these videos and I go, well, that was fun to argue about. But you know what? Football, this is just a pastime, right? Right? So we can get heated about this. We can have a disagreement. But I'm not, it's not that important. And this is a sports channel that I enjoy. Talking about Clemson and other teams. Right? Yeah, we can have some fun here. Here's what I'm going to throw out there to you. Why would you open up the playbook if you didn't have to open up the playbook? And then, are we going to go back in our shells when we actually play a team that can scheme for us? None of that makes sense if the answer is yes. I want you to think about that. Hear me one more time say this for everyone who says I'm too much of a pessimist. If that's Clemson's new offense, and they are going to be explosive, and that Georgia loss woke them from their slumber, and Dabo is trusting his hire, which he should, by the way, we'll be okay. We'll win for the rest of the season. Here is my public service announcement. If Clemson goes back to this safe football, very Manila, very predictable offensive play calling, find 2 or 3 more losses on the schedule. And it won't be someone that you probably expect to lose to. In Florida State, though they look ridiculous, they're not going to lay down and die, folks. It's in Tallahassee. They're humiliated. And DJ's playing his former team. And Norvell is sick and tired of hearing about Clemson. Even last year, all he could hear about was still how they barely beat Clemson. And now, he took in Clemson's former quarterback, and they're 0-2. Do you think he's going to lay down and die in that game? He might start Brock Glenn. As long as he can beat Clemson. Let's get to the comments section. And I'm going to fly through this really, 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 really quick. Then I'm going to have to go. Parker Henderson. Howdy, keep it rolling. NC State wins a nail-biter 62-12. Parker, you're flipping the script, my friend. I love it. I sent Parker and Chase something. I texted them. One of Clemson's commits from BHP, Marquise Henderson. Fantastic player. I think he's a great get for Clemson. He's an explosive player. He set a record over this weekend. I sent it to Parker and Chase and said, hey, Mr. Henderson did what he did. So Parker, thank you for supporting the channel. You see that symbol beside Parker's name? That means that he supports the channel on a monthly basis. So he subscribed and he supports on a monthly basis. Parker, thank you so much, dude. I know we've been friends for a while, but I appreciate that. Parker, I appreciate it. Joey Cogdale, really happy to see a hometown boy getting it done. Congrats, Brian. Well, thank you, Joey. I really do appreciate that, my friend. Achilles, after watching us play App State, I think Georgia's defense really is legit. I believe that, and I believe we were intimidated out of our socks. I believe that. And when you play a team like Georgia, you have to go at them. You can't go out there and call stupid plays, but you have to go at them because remember, anything in life, if you approach it in like a scared way, I'm not talking about sticking your hand in a rattlesnake pit, but if you approach it in a stupid way, or not stupid way, but I was thinking about stupid actions, but if you approach it in fear, you fail almost every time. That's why some people who just throws caution to the wind and just goes for something. That's why sometimes you hear them, you've heard the old term, they have beginner's luck. Well, here's the thing. Sometimes it's because they were just confident and they were like, hey, I'm a beginner. I'm probably going to fail anyway, but I'm going to go in this and just give it my all, just boom. And they succeed. There's a boldness there. There's an acknowledgement that there's a great chance you may fail, but you're not going to go into it scared. And that's why you see that sometimes. So James Thompson, when is the last game we emptied our bench? Seems like at least 3 years. You're 100% right. And that's also why we saw continuity over those years. You were getting guys in there in these blowouts, and they were getting reps in real games against teams that were, well, not themselves, not the practice squad. And that's why we saw some great things there. Jared, NC State is not scoring 62 on Clemson. He's totally having a field day there. Yeah, Parker's just kidding. Chris, as a current student from Alabama, it hurt my heart seeing that, but wow, Clemson played beautiful ball. Chris, thanks for being here. I visited Boone last year. I was at the Coastal Appalachian State game. Y'all have a beautiful stadium up there. Beautiful stadium. And had a great time up there. So the best of luck to y'all. By the way, I see in your photo, you're there at Rockefeller Center. I was there about 5 weeks ago. No, 2 months ago, I was there. 5 weeks ago, I was in Dallas. Might have been 4. It's good to see you. Joe Teal, listening on my commute home from sunny Delaware. Thanks for the content. Thanks, Joe. I think you're Mike's brother, aren't you? I saw Mike yesterday. We were talking about the game. It's good to see you, Joe. Thank you so much. I hope you drive safe. Yo, Brian, I don't know what kind of Clemson fans you're hearing this delusional thinking from, but everyone I know is saying the same thing. You talking about the weirdos off TigerNet or something? No, there's just a lot of different people out there who I'm afraid they're trying to self-soothe and ignore what happened just 9 days ago. And you can be happy about what we saw against Appalachian State, and you can be really optimistic if this is the new offense and this is the new aggression. That's another word you could use for it. But if we're just going to go back into our shell when we play someone good and then blame it on, well, we were just trying to keep it close, and that's waving the white flag, folks. Why even show up? Go big or go home. And real quick, JT Brown, see that symbol beside his name? He's a supporter. Thank you for supporting the show, my friend. Thank you. Realistic one. Got to move on from Georgia, whether we believe it or not. There's a big difference in full roster talent. Hard to compete against a program that has had 9 consecutive top 3 recruiting classes. I agree with that, but I think that we need to come back to that. I agree with the sentiment. We do need to move on, but that Georgia game needs to cultivate questions of why didn't we make the proper changes 4 years ago? And I'm talking about offensive hiring. Because Notre Dame, Florida State, NC State, other schools, they're proving right now that you can go to the transfer portal, but if you can't get those guys to jail and you can't scheme for them, you can pay all the money in the world to them and you're going to lose. And so I'm not anti-transfer portal, but I am anti-approaching, fixing a team, starting with players versus starting with coaching first. And that's where I believe Clemson's at. They should have started with coaching a while. And listen, Sweeney made the best decision possible. I think in the moment, I think now he's realizing he shouldn't have hired some of those guys. Hindsight's 20/20. And here's the deal. Sometimes you just have to learn from it. I hope he is learning from it. He did bring in Matt Luke. That's good, but I'm just hoping that he really gets the proper people on staff who needs to be there, especially if things don't turn around this year. I'm going to move a little quicker. White Walker, we've been elite since 2020. The COVID season doesn't really count. Are you talking about Clemson? We haven't been elite since 2020. You know what? I would agree with that. Definitely. I would even say that 2019 covered up some coaching complacencies and maybe reading too much of their own press. What? I like that. I can agree with that 100%. Low Country Native 843, Rush Hour. Good to see you. Good to see you. Anthony Lawrence, Beverly Hills Cop. You're very close. Yes, it was Rush Hour. Yes, Low Country, you got it. And you understand the words coming out of my... And Chris Tucker could just go so flipping high when he was saying that. It was so funny. Coastal 79, the offense was the thing of beauty Saturday night. These folks poo-pooing the opponent Saturday night trying to minimize the Tigers' performance are morons. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Appalachian State. This is not me, and I don't think that you're applied this either. I'm not crapping all over the players or even the play calling from Saturday night. Just the big thing that irritates me is you've got to play aggressive against teams like Georgia. You've got to play aggressive anyway, but you've got to be aggressive, period. And I just hope we don't go back into our shell or become complacent and stop being creative. So I agree with you. Let me see. 2 years ago or last, this game came down to a final touch. Maybe so. Maybe so. I'm going to keep moving on through here. Kerry Carson, Apples and Orange, App State and Georgia, plain and simple. I agree with you to a point, but I will say this. Clemson has to be aggressive. I heard someone tell me this, and I know this video is starting to go a little longer than what I planned, so I might miss a couple of things, but I'll say this, Kerry. I was told growing up, someone said, "Do you know the only rules in fighting?" I said, "No." They said, "There are no rules." I've never been in a bar fight before in my life, but I have the concept. You get into that, and the person across from you, according to what state they're in, they're there to beat you into a coma. At that moment, you have to make the best decision. And if you have to grab a chair, if you have to grab something and smack them over the head, you have to. Clemson does not have that intensity when they go into certain games. In fact, a lot of games. And so I'm glad to see that aggressiveness. That's the aggressiveness that we saw when Trevor Lawrence was there. That's the aggressiveness that we saw when Deshaun Watson was there. And everybody can say, well, that's because Cade did what he did the other night. Because they gave him the opportunity to. Here's another thing. Let Cade fail or let him succeed. Stop being the lid on top of his success. I think John Maxwell, this very well-known speaker, he has a whole thing on the lid concept, and you need to check that out. Noah Denton, Clemson Football Live halftime video on Saturday was lit. Well, thank you, Noah Denton. Appreciate that. Appreciate it. Jared, my high school alma mater, Westside, beat their rivals T.L. Hanna 56-20 Friday. Yeah. It's funny how those two teams go back and forth, which one's good and which one's not. It's crazy. I think Westside, they won the state championship last year. Oh, yeah, that's a big rivalry. Oh, my goodness. JT Brown dropping $20 and supports the channel on a monthly basis. Brian, I'm telling you, Dabo decides on whether to open the playbook based on the first couple of plays, and it doesn't matter who we are playing. If we execute, playbook opens. If we don't, we play conservative. Dabo's world. JT, that is a ridiculously generous, I promise y'all, I don't know what's wrong, generous donation. Thank you so much, and for supporting monthly. You know what? I appreciate Coach Sweeney. I appreciate what he's done. But you know what? He has to step back and ask himself, what has been the end result of that? I'm not even going to say this towards Dabo. I'm going to say this to fans that takes up for Dabo. Don't go through and tell me, well, Coach Sweeney can come and go as he please. He can, since the very day he signed on to be Clemson's coach after that 2008 season. He could. But to be successful takes a specific set of disciplines. Anyone who is successful, especially long-term, has long-term success in business, in sports, in whatever, they'll tell you that, in fact, you can't do anything that you want. You have to approach it in a very specific way. and you have to adapt over time. So I hope that he's learned from that and he stepped back and said, what has been the end result of me going conservative in the play calling? Well, I hope he changes his the way that that he approaches it. If so, guys, we'll be in business. We'll be fine. If not, we won't be fine. Vol Steak, I appreciate you giving Tennessee some respect, Brian. Hope y'all beat NC State bad as well. I did that video the other night. It's got a lot of views. A lot of you Tennessee fans really like that. Thanks, Vol Steak. I appreciate that. Joey Cogdill just became a YouTube member. Dude, thank you so much. Thanks for supporting the channel. Appreciate it. Got a dip, but stay after it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, my friend. Ryan Hunt, honestly think not only it was Clemson's night, I think there was a little something spiritual from the tragic situation of Overton. That's really, really sad. That's really, really sad. Yeah. Have you noticed how little coverage this game had on all the sports outlets, but when they were on Upset Alert, they were all over social media? Yeah. It's clickbait. It's great clickbait. Hit Wonder, thanks for supporting the channel. You're monthly supporter. I really appreciate it. Gonna move speed up. Mr. Brown, it's good to see you. Love the way you bring what you bring to. By the way, love the show you bring to YouTube. Second time watching and going to subscribe. Thanks, Ryan Hunt. I appreciate it. Kyle Allen, go Shants and go Tigers. I'd love to see our receivers make explosive plays. Yeah, Chanticleers are looking good. Looking good. Vasco is looking good. Braden Bennett looking good. Tyler, we played a real team. Next time we play a halfway decent team, it'll go back to looking crappy as ever. I don't believe a switch has magically flipped. Tyler, that's exactly what I'm hoping doesn't happen. But that's the line of thinking I'm leaning towards. This video is going way too long. I'm sorry, y'all. No looking good for Donut Dave. It's good to see it still, Gamble. Dropping some dough and supports on a monthly basis. Thank you so much, Donut Dave. You're crazy. Donut Dave Doran. Oh my God, y'all are crazy. Dante Aiken. Man, Clemson shocked me. Yeah, they did. They did. Oh man. Still Gamble, did I say thank you for the $2? Thank you. Thank you for that. And I appreciate you supporting monthly. I do appreciate it. User App State didn't have Coltrane Turner hitting on all cylinders. Nothing about the playbook. the Cole Turner jokes with you. And folks, we're not making fun of Cole Turner himself. User, which I believe is Ruby Ridge, always picks on Dabo of how, I mean, we could have Randy Moss and Jerry Rice playing for Clemson, go out and have 5 touchdown receptions each, 300 yards receiving each, and Dabo would oh, that's great, but did y'all see Cole Turner? Cole had 1 reception for 15 yards. So anyway, all right, folks, there's 95 of you in here at 4:15 on Monday. I hope y'all will subscribe if you hadn't already. Hey, hit the thumbs up. Let me know you're here. I'm glad y'all are here, and I want you to know. I want you to know. I'm just trying to look at this in a realistic way. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Drop me a line in here. Y'all take care of yourself. And as always, go Tigers.